Hi guys, sorry about the late start. Had a little issue today, but let's roll the tape. Good morning. Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. I see two people showed up. It's good. If you're here, identify yourself. It makes the show happen. Had a little technical difficulty. I thought I was in, but I was in actually this session. So your questions make the show. If I don't have questions, I don't have a show. And yes, I was pushing things right to the last second, to be honest. I have an interesting day today. I'm driving across state to see my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law and her husband, and so right after the yoga class, so we've got a busy day today, and still trying to jam in some drum covers. So I was working on one right before we left. Before we leave today, I want to have it done. I'm hoping I have the filming done of it. I did it between 8:30 and 8:50. Then I bounced the music, so and then I did what I had to do, get myself ready for this, make sure you take care of certain things. When you're 60 years old, you got to make sure certain things are taken care of. So these are all those kinds of things. Hello, Claus. Thank you for being here. Keith Scott, thank you for being here. I'm not going to forget my yoga at 11 o'clock. Got that. That's why we're not leaving till 12 o'clock to go to Fort Myers, which is going to be a good 2.5, 3 hour ride. So got a strange, busy day, and I don't know, I just decided to jam this in here today, have some fun with it. So your questions make the show. If I have questions, I'm going to have a show. If I don't have questions, you're just going to hear me rambling on today. I don't want to ramble on. I won't ramble on very long because I have lots of things to do that I could be doing other than talking to you. So I really would appreciate some feedback today and some questions. I have a set of brushes here. By the way, these are the Steve Gadd brushes. I don't know if any of you have seen them. The Gadd labeling has kind of worn off. It's a Vic Firth brush. I love playing brushes. I did a Diana Krall, and I hope you guys can all hear me well because I've got this mic thing, I think, down, but I'm not sure. So tell me if the mic sounds okay today. Yesterday I found out that well, it seems like it's there. But last week I found out it was in one ear, so I didn't find that out till the playback. I listened to the playbacks. So, these Steve Gadd brushes are Vic Firth. Steve did something unique that he used to do with his Regal brushes. Everybody used to play Regal brushes when I was a kid. And he put this little kind of bend in it. And the way you used to put the bend in it when you wanted that, because I knew a lot of guys that did this, is you would push down on a flat surface and bend your brushes. And Steve had his brushes with these in it. I've had these probably about 8-9 years now. I don't beat them up too much. They're not really heavy brush. They're kind of a light brush. But I enjoy them sometimes. I have about, 15 pairs of brushes probably over 45 years. So thank you, Claus, for letting me know. It sounds great. Claus asked the question, is live music starting to get back to normal over there? I guess what I would say is I believe it is, but I don't know what normal is anymore. There's like a new normal. And I don't know if I feel comfortable going to a show yet, a real show, but I know that the church thing has been happening for a while. I've been playing live in church since probably last May, but we had very few people in the church. We were doing live streams, so it was like 5-6 people in the church when we were doing these things, and social distancing and I never played with a mask up there, so that's the funny thing. And I don't like playing with a mask. I have a problem playing with a mask, so and it just bothers my breathing or something. But I think it's getting back, and I think people are starting to go out, and I think there's a trust level starting to happen. But that's a whole nother discussion that really Hanging with the Hammer doesn't want to go into, because there's a lot of politics around vaccines and all that stuff. So I'll stay away from that one. So taking your drumming questions today. Thank you for the two guys that are watching, Keith, and appreciate that so much, Claus and Keith. I appreciate you being here. What's your desert island snare drum? Or in other words, all right, let me put that in now. So we'll switch them around so I can read it out loud. What's your desert island snare drum? Or in other words, if you could only pick one drum to use from your arsenal, what would it be? That's actually two questions, because I don't have my Desert Island snare drum, I don't think. I've got some really good snare drums, though, that I have 4 snare drums that I consider my top 4 snare drums I use. The first snare drum is a Ludwig Black Beauty 5x14. And I picked that drum up back in, I don't know, 2010 or 11. I have a good friend, Ken, and I had a bronze, hand-hammered bronze 6.5x14 402, which, to get that 5x14 Black Beauty, that was the trade. And that was a tough trade to make because the hand-hammered had its own thing, but it didn't have that Ludwig Black Beauty sound that I always heard and I always liked. And I liked the 5x14 size. I think having a 400 and a 402 are kind of a 2 drums that every drummer should have. Good morning, Chadwick. Nice to have you on today. So I think, you want to have a 402 and a 400, Ludwig Superphonic. Those are just 2 metal drums that work. So the 400 is what I have of my Black Beauty, and I love the drum. But I would love, as a Desert Island, to have a 402, because I don't have that. And I gave up the 402 in the hand-hammer bronze, which was kind of the Bill Stewart drum. Bill Stewart was playing this. A friend of mine, Scott Hazen, picked up that an extra one of those drums, traded me back for his 7x14 Noble Cooley that I had, which, by the way, is an awesome snare drum. It's kind of like a Radio King. It's a, Noble Coolies are solid 1-ply shells with reinforcing rings. And I had his Noble Cooley for a good, I don't know, probably a good 6-7 years. I had that drum. I used it all over my wife's album, and I love that drum. It was a great drum, and I had to trade it back to him to get the he wanted his drum back, is what happened, and I gave it to him. Good morning, Leonard Smith. Thanks for being on today, and Chadwick and Keith and everybody. So we're talking about Desert Island snare drums, but your questions make the show, so if I have questions, I'll have more to talk about. So anyhow, that's the story with how I lost the Noble and Cooley that I really love, the 7x14. Now, I do have a 7. I was talking about my 4 drums. So the other drum I have is a 5x14 Noble Cooley, which started out as a champagne sparkle finish that my friend Scott gave me. And I had my original 5x14 Noble Cooley, goes all the way back to the 90s, which was lacquer black. And I love that drum. But that was another trade, and I lost it. And then I finally got it back in about 2010 as this champagne sparkle Noble Cooley. And then last year, I guess it was in 2020, I sent it to Noble Cooley and they refinished it. And now it looks kind of a reddish wood, cherry wood, they call it. I wish I could have got it closer to my walnut finish Gretsch, but I didn't. But that's a beautiful drum, and that is a solid shell snare drum. It's like a Radio King. And Noble Cooley makes some of the best solid shell drums out there. It's Noble Cooley, Craviato, and then all the other custom drum companies that get their shells from somebody else, except for Longo drums. And Longo, I've never played a Longo, but I've heard great things about it. So I've been playing Noble Cooley drums off and on since the 90s. I've had a Noble and Cooley in my arsenal, at least one. So the 5x14 or the 7x14, or I had one point in time I had both. And then I had one of the 3.78, 7.5 drums they had, and a 14. I didn't like that, the piccolo, so much. Phil Collins liked to play that drum. And then I had one of their cast aluminum drums, the Alloy Classic drums, which was a cool drum, but the rims were out around. And they were starting to have problems with their rims. And I talked to the guy at Noble Cooley, one of the owners of the company. I forget his name. I have it in my contacts. He was the guy that did the refinishing of it. And he said that they can't even get the die-cast hoops they used to have back in the 90s. So my drum is a 90s Noble Cooley 5x14 with the die-cast rims. And now you see a lot of the Noble Coolies are made with the triple flange rims now. So that's a different sound, triple flange on a solid shell. So I love my Noble Coolies. And then I had a friend who became a friend, who built me 2 snare drums, custom snare drums. One is a 7x14 solid walnut shell drum. And the walnut shell was bought from a company out in the Midwest. I forget the name of the company. They went out of business. I think they had some problems with some of their shells. This one is still in round. It still sounds great. Looks great. It looks like an old Radio King, except for it's got the Radio King type lugs, old lugs, but it has a Dunn throw off on it, and it had die-cast hoops on it, and I just switched it over to a single flange hoop, and it's opened the drum up a lot. I think that drum really doesn't need die-cast hoops, so I took it off, and that's worked out really well for me. And so that drum, and then I have a cast aluminum snare drum, which is the same shell as the DW cast aluminum and the Gretsch cast aluminum. It's made in a factory in Taiwan, and my friend Dan from DMR Drums went to that factory, saw them making DW and Gretsch drums, bought 5 of those shells. I got one of them. I got the first one, actually. And he had a powder coated because he got a little scratch on the return flight home. So he wanted to powder coat it. I would have taken it with the scratch. I like the kind of aluminum look, but the powder coating turned out really nice. It doesn't have any kind of fingerprints on it. And that drum sounds like a beefed up 402 Ludwig. So that's kind of my go-to 402 sound for the more classic aluminum side of a 402. So howdy, Chris Bates. Nice to have you on today. And we've got Leonard, and we've got Chadwick, and so many. Your questions make the show. So I was just talking about some of my 4 favorite snare drums. I guess my Desert Island snare drum, Keith, to be honest, is still a Black Beauty 6.5x14. And one day I will get one. So Chadwick wanted to interject something. He just built a 10x14 deep maple. That's nice. Oh, so you're making one of those snobs, hey? To be kind of like a lot of the guys doing the rap music, and also Snarky Puppy's drummer. What's his name? Sputs. He was the first guy I saw do it. I had a 10x14. I just sold my 10x14 in the last, I had it for about 10 years. I had a 10x14, and I really, really liked that drum too. That was another drum I liked. But my friend wanted it more. It just sat on the shelf. It didn't get played enough, and I didn't really have that rap mindset. And Chadwick, what you're playing, a lot of the stuff you're playing, that'll really be a cool thing to put in there. You put some stacks together, and you're ready for Instagram, man. You'll be ready to go right to Instagram and really knock it out. You're already on Instagram, I know. I'm only kidding with you. So Chris Bates is asking a question. What's happening here? Well, this is a live stream, Chris. This is something that I started doing about 3-4 months ago. I had some early guests like Chadwick was on, and Tate Berkey, and Eric from the Drum Attic was on, and just had Keith Scott on recently, and I had Kelly Kusumanu on, and my friend Mike Fasano came on once. And this was my attempt to do a live Ask Earl Anything. Now, my Ask Earl Anything show has been around for about 4 years now, and that wasn't live. It was always people would ask me questions, and I would record it, and then I would post it. So this is just a live Ask Earl Anything show because you guys ask the questions. If I don't have questions, it's just me talking to a camera. And people will check out eventually on me. I know that. So maybe you even did. I don't know. I only see 5 of you now. So that's what's happening here. This is just a live stream, and it seems like I have a lot of people that like to just hang out and ask questions and jump in. And a lot of times in live streams, the other aspect of it is what's going on in the chat, because you guys are talking to one another, and that really kind of makes it more exciting, so to speak. So what other topics would you guys like me to talk about? Claus said something. My Desert Island drum would probably be a 6.5x14 raw copperphonic. I've never played the copper drum. I wish I had. It looks like a great drum. I mean, when you talk about metal snare drums, the standard is Ludwig. There's no doubt about it. Now, Gretsch, in the last few years, has really done some nice stuff with snare drums, and they've come up a lot. But the standard is still Ludwig. Ludwig has always had the metal snare drum market. That is what the pro guys always went to. And everybody that makes a signature drum, be it Kenny Aronoff or Manu Katché, what are they copying? They're copying a Black Beauty. That's what they're doing. They got a Yamaha version of a Black Beauty or a Tama version of a Black Beauty. And it's always that brass shell, that thick brass, the thicker, spun brass shell that's not die cast. Now, there's a whole different thing when you start talking about bell brass. And I have a question on my next Ask Earl show about bell brass, I believe. But bell brass is a whole nother ballgame. And they are heavy as heck, but they sound so incredibly cool. But they are so incredibly expensive. That's the problem with bell brass. So, let's see. Chris Bates said, on most of my recent videos, I've played more drums than I have microphones. Do you guys run into the problem from time to time? Let me try to figure out your question, Chris. I've played with more drums than I have microphones. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I've had that issue. It depends on how many inputs you have on your board or your interface. Guys like Chadwick use only 4 microphones. He uses 2 like overheads over the toms and picks up his cymbals, and he's got a kick and snare. You can talk about that, Chadwick, in the chat if you'd like. I tend to use somewhere around 8 microphones on a drum kit. Sometimes I don't use all of them. When I have the big concert tom kit, sometimes I don't put a mic on each drum. I'll put a mic over 2 drums. So I'll have like the little concert tom 6/8. 6/8. I'll put a mic over that. Then I'll put a mic over the 1013, and then another mic over the 1416, and then I use the 15 as a floor tom. So I'll have another mic on that, and that's the way I'll cover the whole kit. Get the roundhouse thing going on. I'll cover it over two drums. So you don't have to put a mic on each drum. That's kind of a misnomer. And if you don't have enough mic inputs, you've got to space your mics out a little bit. And there's other ways you can mic. You don't have to mic really close. You can have it up about, 6 inches over the toms and get a good sound. So it all depends on what you're trying to do. But if you want that individual track thing, then yeah, of course you're going to need to have an input for each mic. But I've done that many times. I just move mics around, and certain mics are better at picking up more drums, like condenser mics. Like right now, my concert tom kit, I have a Russian-made Octava 319. I think it's MK319, and it's covering the 2 low concert toms. And then I've got a AT Audio-Technica Pro 25 in the floor tom, which is acting as a floor tom. It's really a concert tom. And then I've got a 58 in the 10, and I've got a 57 in the 13, and that's covering 4 mics on the concert tom kit right now. So there's no rules. You can break all the rules. Recording is, matter of fact, the coolest recordings are when we break the rules, to be honest with you. Let's see what Chadwick said. Is some good content for drummers to watch right now? You mean which drummers am I watching, or which videos am I watching right now? Content-wise, I guess that's the question. Well, I watch a lot of the videos in the community. That's one of the things I do. But I think from the pro drummer thing, I like to listen to a lot of interviews, and there's some really good guys out there doing some interviews. And so what I do a lot of times is I'll search names of pro drummers I like to watch. Like I just found this Kenny Aronoff thing where he was in his studio, showing his studio, and there's a guy on YouTube. I just subscribed yesterday. I don't have his name in my head, but he's a drummer too, apparently, and he basically walked us through Kenny Aronoff's studio, and Kenny Aronoff talked about what he does in his studio and how he does tracks and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that excites me, watching that kind of content. I'm not much of the guy that watches the lessons very often, unless it's some pro giving a lesson. Like every once in a while I'll watch Drumeo just to watch Bernard Purdy or Jerry Brown or one of the pro guys come in and do a lesson. I kind of enjoy that. When they bring the YouTuber guys, not so much. I'm sorry. Especially most of the heavy YouTuber guys that are out there and Instagram guys that have made it, you know, they're not playing with any bands, so I haven't never seen them play in a working situation. And to me, I'd rather hear stories about how you make it in a working situation than how you make it in on Instagram and YouTube. Because I know there's a way to get lots of followers and stuff, but I don't feel like listening to that. And I think those days are gone too in a lot of respects. So, but some good contact for drummers to watch right now is there's a guy that used to work for Zildjian. I'm trying to think of his name. John DeChristopher. He's done some great interviews with some of my favorite drummers like Steve Gadd, Andy Newmark, Rick Murata, Danny Serafin. All these guys were on his show. So if you want to hear some cool interviews, he's got them all because he's got contacts with them all those years working for Zildjian. So I thought that was kind of cool. Hi, Laurie Jones. Let's see what else we got question-wise here. Billy Nolan. Hi, Billy Nolan. Billy Nolan says 9-inch bell brass snare was a legend. Was that a bell brass or was that just a brass snare drum, that 9-inch? Because I've seen that 9-inch drum. And it is an amazing drum. But was that actually bell brass? That's the question. Bell brass and brass are two different things. Bell brass, the Tama bell brass is cast. I think it's 3 mil. The shell is 3 mil thick, and it's very thick shell, and it's a very heavy shell. I'm not saying that 9-inch isn't a beast, but Sonar also had a cast drum, heavy as heck. It was not 8 inches, an 8 by 14, huge, heavy, thick sound. But the one who made it big was Tama, and when they made them, they were a lot cheaper. I wish I'd bought one back in that day, but we didn't know that Tama was going to be as great as they turned out to be. Tama is one of the best drum companies out there, I think. I mean, personally, I think their Star Series drums are incredible. I thought the Star Classics were really good. I used to love the Superstars, the Birch Superstars. They sounded amazing. If you can find an old set of Birch Superstars, those are some great drums. Buy them, especially if you get them cheap, you know. So Tama's been making great drums. They just make these other lines that are not as great. Most every drum company's got those mid-level drums that are good, but they're not great, you know. But hi, CCM drummer, thanks for being on. Leonard Smith, thank you for being on. I'm going to take your question in a second here. Working my way down. Claus asked a question. I wish Ludwig would take the swing at the bell brass thing. Yeah, I don't know if Ludwig will ever have that in their brain to do that because they make such great metal snare drums, and why mess with their thing? But that would be kind of cool if they did. The bell brasses are way, way overpriced right now. They are extremely, extremely overpriced. And I don't know. That's probably why I don't have one. I almost pulled the trigger about 3 years ago. I wanted a bell brass, and I had one in my sights for about $650, and it was one of those Gretsch ones, and it had the single lug in the middle, and the guy was selling it, and it was used, and I wish I had bought it, but I didn't. So, Leonard Smith asks, what are your feelings about match grip versus traditional? Well, I play both grips. I get more power out of match grip, to be honest, and I think match grip is a little bit more, it's a little easier to teach kids today, and it's a little more versatile because if you want to do open-handed playing or a lot of different things, match grip's going to give you more of that thing. Traditional grip was taught to me as a child because that's what they taught every drummer was traditional grip. And you needed it for a parade snare drum to play a parade snare drum, and I played a parade snare drum when I was a kid. But I don't find the power you need for rock in traditional grip, but I can play it. And I usually play my brushes with traditional grip. So I have the understanding of traditional grip, and there are some really good things you can do with it if you take it to that next level. If you take it to the level of like a Vinnie Colaiuta or Steve Smith or Dave Weckl or Steve Gadd, who just make traditional grip look so sexy and cool. You know what I mean? I just don't get the power out of it. So it's not what I do. But I don't have any bad feelings. And there are some guys that are great traditional grip players that have incredible finger technique, because there's a left-hand finger technique thing that you can do, like Joe Morello used to do. And a lot of guys do. And I think it's easier to do it on traditional in the left hand than to get your left hand to do it. But you can work on it on match grip and make it happen. You just have to work on it. And I think that's the key to the whole thing is, can we work on these things that we want to work on to get our playing to where it needs to be? Last year I took a lesson with John J.R. Robinson, and he watched one of my videos, and he saw me, and he said, your right side is way stronger than your left side. You need to work on your left side. And he's exactly correct. I mean, but I've known that since about 40 years ago. So, I mean, it's nothing new for me. It's like, do I want to spend the time on my left side and make it work? Now, I will tell you, in the last year, I've been spending a little bit more time working on left-handed exercise. Instead of doing the things I would normally do with my right, working the left. And if you want to work the left, that's the way to balance it out. And in this new world, that's what most of these guys are doing. They're balancing it out because linear playing forces you to do that. When I was in college, I was taught right-hand lead on everything, like orchestral. I did orchestral snare pieces and played in the orchestra and in the band, the concert band. And basically, I was taught to right-hand lead everything. So when you're reading rhythms, you would do your downbeats and your ands, you know, your eighth notes with your right hand and all the in-betweenies with your left hand. And it was kind of how you read rhythms in orchestral. It was just an easier way to make sure you can get through things kind of quickly and get your reading together. I don't know if that helped me for power playing. It really didn't, but it was an interesting thing. So I don't have any bad feelings towards traditional grip. I still use it today, and you'll see me every once in a while pull it out. But I think match is more useful for open-handed playing and a lot of the rock stuff today that's going on. So, Chris Bates said, Tem is a good company. I got one of their club jam kits. Yeah, those are cool kits. Definitely cool. Chris also said, Earl, other than YouTube, do you do your live stream and drum covers on any other platforms? I don't do a live stream on any other platform. I don't do anything on Facebook, by the way. I mean, every once in a while I'll throw something in one of those drum groups on Facebook, but I never get any response from it. Never. Even Drumman 190's group, which I've been a member of since day one, and love Drumman 190. We're friends, and he helped me get started in this whole YouTube thing 4 years ago. He's one of those guys that helps people. I don't get any traction putting my covers in those places, and sometimes I get like yelled at for like, well, you're not allowed to put your covers out here on this day. We only let them out on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are cover days. You put it on a Thursday, it doesn't work. So I stay off of Facebook for the most part, unless it's something I really want to post for my family to see, and then I'll put that on Facebook. But as far as Instagram, I don't do live stream. I've done one or two live streams on Instagram. I was at a gig. The last live gig I played out in a club was with a band called the Swigs, and that night I had my phone set up so I could actually live stream a little bit. So there was some live stream gig stuff I did, but I've never really done this live stream on Instagram. But I put covers on Instagram every day. And what I do is I make drum covers, I bring them on my iPad, and then I cut them into smaller pieces, and then I drop them on Instagram when I feel like doing it. So that's the other platform I'm on for the most part. I haven't done TikTok, and YouTube's where I've invested all my time and energy. So let's see. Blake Nunn. Hi, Blake. Nunn Drums. Good morning. Now, the question is gadimance, the new gadimance book, too. Yes, the new gadimance book, I'm looking forward to getting a copy of one of these days, and maybe one of those things I actually practice out of someday. So I've been using all these gad things forever. So, but yeah, that's cool. Let's see. Claus had a question. I know it was, oh, yes, Laurie, George is great. Oh, what was the word? I missed the thing about George Flutus. Where did that come up from? I missed that one. George Flutus, by the way, I've connected with George on Instagram. He's a great drummer, but he's not just a Zeppelin drummer, just so you guys all know. He's actually a jazz drummer. He's an incredible jazz drummer. That's what you got to go find some of his jazz playing. He is just off the chain jazz player. He just loves John Bonham, so he does all that Bonham stuff, but he can play in any classic rock band, I'm sure. He can play anything, probably. He's an incredible drummer. So George is one of my new favorites out there. Laurie Jones says a bit of osteoarthritis, and I don't know what's between play and match grip. Okay, that'll that changes your grip too as you get older. You have to make things work that don't hurt you. So that's a good point. That's an excellent point you got going on there. Well, remember, your questions make the show, and if I don't have questions, I don't really have a show. So I'm going to go back and see if I missed anything. Boy, oh boy, don't see a lot here. Did I miss anything, guys? All right. Well, I'm looking for a question. You guys got a question? Or do you want me to talk about something today? You want me to talk about like some toy I have in here? Last week we talked about the crazy drum pad that's behind me, but I'm not going to bring that out again. How do you guys feel about hand drums? Do you guys play hand drums, any of you guys? That's a question I'm asking you. So you guys can let me know what your feelings are in playing djembe and hand drums and Latin percussion and things like that. See, for me, I've always played all that stuff. That's part of what I've had to do to exist in the world, is every once in a while I have to be able to play percussion and do a gig on percussion. I used to, in college, of course, I played mallet instruments and timpani more, but I don't. Thank you, Blake, for saying you do play hand drums. That's cool. Hand drums, that's a lot of fun. I got into djembe in 1995 when Remo started making those first big djembes, and I saw them in a drum shop, and I was like, because I'd seen djembes in college. There was something in college. There was like a dance class. I used to watch the guy play congas and an African drum. It was a djembe. I didn't realize it at the time. This was in the 70s, and they would play these rhythms, and they would dance to it, and the rhythms would be in all different times, like a lot of odd times, like 5 or 7, and they'd be doing modern dance to it and stuff. But in the 90s, when Remo put out the first djembes that were like tunable, easily tunable, I picked up one of those. My wife bought me one for Christmas, and I've been playing djembe ever since. Love playing djembe. It's a fun drum to play. So lots of fun. So Laurie Jones has only tried hand drums at home, never on a gig. Yeah, I used to do this blues gig back in New Jersey back in the day, and I would bring a kick drum, a snare drum, a ride cymbal, a hi-hat, and a djembe. And that's what I would use for the gig, the whole gig. And every once in a while, I would just play hand drum for a little bit, and then I'd switch back to sticks or brushes or whatever I was doing with this band. That was a very eclectic band. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun doing that. Blake Dunn says, first thing I learned when I was still in a wheelchair was hand drumming for my mother's. You were in a wheelchair, Blake. You don't look like you ever been in a wheelchair, but I'm sorry to hear about that. I guess you overcame something. There must be a story there. You should tell that story on YouTube someday. That sounds like a very personal and important story in your life, you know? Okay. Let me go back to gadimance for a minute. I think I've talked about so let's go back to the gadimance book. The gadimance book is the new Steve Gadd book that has come out, and it's basically doing all of Steve's rudiments. That is how he developed a lot of his famous licks. If you watch Steve Gadd from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and to today, you'll notice he plays a lot of the same stuff because he's been working on it all those years. He's not trying to reinvent himself. He's come from a rudimental background. And there's a guy on YouTube that I do follow. This is another one of those guys I follow. Ruben von something. Oh, gosh. Ruben's from the Netherlands. And he does all the Steve Gadd stuff. And he breaks down the Steve Gadd licks. And he breaks down his rudimental stuff. And he was doing this before Gadd put out this book. Gadd put this book out during COVID. He started writing the book finally. He had time to sit down and not tour and write a book. So that's why Steve put out the book. I heard an interview with him talking about the book a little bit. So, but this guy Ruben from the Netherlands studies Steve Gadd, and he breaks down Gadd's his 6-stroke roll and his Radamacues and all that stuff, because most of Gadd's licks are based on rudiments. And I've always had kind of a semi-rudimental thing in my fancier fills, more than the linear thing. The linear approach today is where we get a lot of drum fill guys that just play drum fills all the time. They're working on linear patterns, and that's more the Gary Chafee, Berkeley school of linear playing, which was starting to happen in the 70s, but I was still coming out of the rudimental thing, the Buddy Rich thing, and Gad was kind of an extension of that. Guys like Vinnie Colaiuta took it both directions, and so did Weckl and all those guys. So incredible. Blake's telling his story a little bit. I've had 6 major surgeries to walk again. Broke my back wrestling at 12. Ooh, that's tough, man. Wow. Dude. Well, God bless you, man. I'm glad you're okay and you're able to play drums and teach drums. That's awesome. Really is. You also said drumming helped me get my legs back. Yep. Wow. I'm amazed at people with handicaps now. They've overcome it and how drumming's helped them. From the Rick Allens of the world of Def Leppard to wheelchair drummer, Jeff. There's some great guys that have overcome the obstacles. And I think we all have obstacles in life that we have to overcome. And when we can overcome those obstacles, it makes us a better human usually. I think the things that hurt us and give us the pain in life are also the things that can, if you give it time, can take us the next step in life and can change our direction a little bit. So I'm glad you're overcoming it, Blake. That's an awesome story. Let's see. Leonard Smith said, when you're covering a song, do you strive to copy the original artist? Well, that's a great question. I don't strive to cover the original artist to the point of having to play it exact. My friend CCM Drummer's on here. He's got a whole series on why you play exact and how you play exact, and that's his mantra, is play it exact. Play it exactly like the record. When I play and I cover a song, I'm trying to pay homage to the artist, and I'm trying to give the drummer, I'm trying to play stylistically in their style. I'm not trying to change it up. Like, just before I came on, I decided to do a Bengals song. Okay, I'm trying to do some 80s. I'm trying to get out of the 70s thing and the 60s thing. So I've been choosing some simple 80s tunes to play. And this Bengals song, Debbie Peterson, the drummer of the Bengals, is not the most complex drummer in the world, okay? She's extremely simple. I did not have Chop Fest over the Bengals' Manic Monday. I basically played it like they played it for the most part. But there's still a little bit of me in there. And there's a little bit of the way I hit. And there's probably a couple fills that are not exactly like she played them. But I try to play it as close to the artist as possible. And do things as quickly as possible. That's my thing. I don't like spending weeks and months to work on a song. I don't. And I don't like getting nitpicked by people telling me you played this wrong or that wrong. I hate that. That's one of the things I hate. So I make it clear that that's not what I'm trying to do here. And that's why I don't play Zeppelin. That's why I don't play Rush. It's not that I couldn't try to play those songs. It's just that I'm going to have the Neil Peart people, or Peart, if you don't say it right, the Neil Peart people coming at me going, you didn't play that fill right in Tom Sawyer. You got to play a different fill there. You can't play that one. That's not how I play. I practice play when I play covers. I try to play like I'm not overthinking things, because overthinking things is the thing that stagnates your creativity. I just saw an interview. This is another thing I've been watching on YouTube, so this is something I watched this week, but I've watched it before. On YouTube, there's a guy named Rick Beato. Check out Rick Beato. Now, he's got 2 million subscribers, so why am I hawking him? Well, he's a musician, okay? He talks about everything about music, chordally, harmonically, how you write great songs. He goes all over the place. He knows music theory. He had Vinnie Colaiuta I've watched his interview a couple times, but the last time I watched it, Vinny was talking about the idea of what stops flow. That means his creative flow from happening is when he starts to think. So we need to know songs enough that we know the parts, but then where we can stop thinking about the parts and play. And that makes it groove. And for me, that's what I've learned. So when I do drum covers, I try to get it to the place where I know the song and I can make it groove. And for me, when you watch my drum covers, I start recording the drum cover the second I start practicing the cover. So some of you probably practice songs, then you play them. You practice, then you put the camera on. I have camera on downbeat. The first downbeat, I've got the camera on. And I normally don't go longer than an hour on any cover. There's only a few covers I've done like an hour and a half on, to be honest. And they were really songs I was trying to get parts exact. Because the exact parts is what needed to happen. So those take a little bit longer. But for the most part, I try to flow in the style and imbibe the drummer that I'm playing. So I was doing all those Roger Hawkins tracks. I'm not playing exactly Roger Hawkins, but he's an influence. I mean, you can't have him not as an influence if you've listened to Bob Seger or Aretha Franklin or Wilson Pickett or Paul Simon. I mean, this guy's been on all that stuff. So when you start realizing which drummers played these songs, you start to go, oh, yeah, they've had some influence on me. So I try to pay homage to them, but I don't try to overthink it. I try to be me. Because after 45 years, I can't be anything but me. And being me is the best thing I can be. That's the best drum cover I do is usually when I'm playing me and allowing myself to be me. And that's when I feel good about the drum cover. And that's when I have fun. And this is about having fun. If you're not having fun, forget about it. Now, when I have to learn a song for a band or a church, I have to get it pretty darn close, but it's got to be close enough where nobody calls me out on it. So fills that have to be played have to be played. Like, I'm going to be working on a cover of Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. Why? Because somebody asked me to do it. I have that kit, that concert tom kit. A friend asked me. I have some little kids that follow me. This is the pastor's kids. And the pastor's wife came up to me at church last Sunday and said, hey, can you take requests? Because she follows me on Instagram. I said, yeah, what do you want? She goes, can you do Phil Collins? And I said, In the Air Tonight? Yeah. I said, I've been avoiding that one. Why have I been avoiding it? Because I got to play it darn close. If you don't play it darn close, I'm going to get called out on that. So I've got to be in the ballpark on that one. But I want to do it with a little bit of me on it, too, because truthfully, Phil has inspired me. So I have a cover of Phil Collins' Take Me Home Tonight, which I play it. I'm playing from drum machine intro all the way to the end, and I'm playing those parts. And it's it's one of those meditative drum parts, where you get in a zone and you're playing like a loop, and you can't come out of it. If you come out of that trance zone that you're in, you're gonna lose it. That took me about an hour to do. I did like 14 takes on that song. And I had to get in that loopy head groove and stay in it. And that's one of my bigger covers that people watch for some reason. They stay in it. Because I'm in it from square one in that trance. I'm like in a trance, literally. At the very end, I start to stretch a little bit. Start to put a little bit of me and a little bit of those crazy gated tom fills that we like. And also I got the sounded right. The thing about my covers is making it sound right and then playing it so it feels right. That's what I try to do. So that's my philosophy of playing covers, is have fun with it, pay homage to the original drummer, artist. Don't overplay the song, but tastefully play the song. Tastefully overplaying is different than overplaying, because I don't think I'm doing anybody any good if I'm overplaying it. And have fun. Be who you are on it, and that's the coolest thing. Hi, some of my friends. Drum covers by Bill. Sean Woodley, thank you for being on. Yes, I am preaching, Sean. Yes, Sean's heard this before. He takes lessons with me. Let's see if I missed something back there. It's been a while. Let's see. or do you wing it? I don't wing it. That's that. Leonard. Hopefully you didn't get the feeling I wung it, because that's not winging it. What I'm doing. I learn the songs. I play the songs pretty much. Thank you, Blake, for liking my approach. I appreciate that. Claus said, "Spot on. Don't overthink it, Earl." I know. And Claus, you like what I do, so I know you get what I'm saying about that, because that's the truth there. And Drum Covers by Bill says, "Play it like you feel it." Thank you, Drum Covers by Bill, for being on. Your questions make the show, so I know I went off for a while there, but I don't have another one sitting here, so I don't know how I'm going to go with this. As long as you, let's see what he said. Blake says, as long as you get the overall feel and patterns of the tune, you still lead the band, even while throwing in your own stylistic things. Yeah, I think it is that. That's part of it. You got to get certain patterns have to be dead on, and that's the key to it. It's got to be. Now, if you're playing in a live situation, the band, you got to play what the band's playing too. This is something I talk about all the time. When I'm playing in church, if the bass player is not playing the parts that were on the record, it kind of stifles what I can do. So I start to simplify usually. That's using your ears. Part of this whole thing is using your ears too, and developing your ear. Because when you get into live situations, your ear is what gets you through gigs. That has for me, unless you're writing all your charts out and you're working on a band where you've got charts for everything. Then you've got the chart thing to help you. And a lot of the great studio guys chart everything out, and that way they can play lots of stuff, lots of music fast. They'll write a chart and the way they want to play it. And that's how they'll do it. I don't have the luxury of doing that. I could do that for every drum cover, but I don't. I don't have the time for it. It takes too long for me to do that. I learn better by ear, so I learn everything by ear. Unless the music is given to me. And then I can read a chart, so I do read charts. It's just I don't write a chart for me to do everything. Unless it's a session and somebody wants some specific things, I'll write a very basic chart on a note paper. Kind of like, what's his name? There's a guy who did a whole video on doing studio drumming. He's a studio drummer from LA. Mark Schulman is his name. I'm just slow. I'm getting old. That's what old people do. Mark Schulman had a method of writing a chart, and I use his shorthand sometimes. It's helpful. In at church, I take the actual chord charts, and I write little grooves off to the side, and I'll write verse groove, chorus groove. I don't write fills in. I just play fills. I play what is appropriate, that kind of thing. So, Keith Scott says, the dreaded In the Air Tonight requests. Yeah, but I had the drums for it, so I knew it was going to have to be played one day, so we'll get to it. And Blake Dunn says, the infamous In the Air Tonight with Thunderous Toms. Supposed to. Thank you, Leonard, for saying it was a great answer. I do appreciate that. Sean, thank you for being on. When you overthink it, you can't enjoy the song. That is true, too. I missed a couple of Laurie's questions. Okay, Laurie's question. Oh, you're right. Thank you for getting me back to Laurie. All right, so Laurie's question was, do you always use a single kick drum pedal? And the answer to that is no. One of my bigger videos that I have lots of views on is a song called Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. It was one of the early YouTube drumless tracks I found. And I had my double pedal up that day, and at the very end, where it's "Don't you feel good?" and "Don't you feel good?" It's one of those kind of unga daga beats, And don't you feel good? So it's got that ooga chaka. At the very end of it, I started throwing double kick in. I think people watch that video because of that for some reason. I get a lot of comments about that. Well, that was cool. I don't really play double kick, though. I just goof around with it. So double kick is a whole nother thing. I remember the first time I played a double kick. The first time I played a double kick was in 1990, I believe. And I swear I thought I was going to have to start relearning how to play drums after having a double kick pedal on my kit. I borrowed it from a friend at work who was a drummer, brought it home for a weekend, threw it up there, and started to try to do. And it was one of the original DW pedals with the extra plate, and you put your pedal on it, and then it had the plate that attached, and it was a bear. I eventually bought that pedal too. That was the funny thing. I eventually bought it from the guy, but the first weekend I brought it home, I felt like it was like going down a flight of stairs. A couple times I put 2 bass drums up that I had because at different points in time I would have extra bass drums. They never matched, but I would sit in my basement and try to put 2 bass drums and try to play double bass, and I realized I couldn't do it. And try to be Ginger Baker or Keith Moon or Louis Bellson or whatever. But yeah. Chadwick says the Hot for Teacher beat. Yeah, nice. That's a hard beat too, but that's the double bass thing, the Hot for Teacher beat. So, anyhow, long and the short of it was that first weekend I brought the pedal back to him, said, "Here, take it." And then I was in a band, and about a year later we played the lead singer's wedding, and the band that was playing for the lead singer's wedding, he had a double pedal. And of course, that I'm in this band, we're all there at this wedding, so we go up and play a couple songs, and I got a kick out of his double pedal. He had a good one. He had a Tama at the time, and it was not like that DW, but I eventually bought the DW from the guy for really dirt cheap, and I used that for years until one day I got rid of it. And then I got a Iron Cobra Flexi Flyer double pedal. It's Flexi Glide, I guess is technically what it is. It's the strap pedal. So I have a strap single pedal Iron Cobra Flexi Glide, and I've got a double pedal Flexi Glide. And the double pedal's on the 22-inch Concert Tom kit, which it's not always up. Sometimes I take the pedal away. So I goof around with it, but I don't consider myself a double pedal player by any stretch of the imagination. But great question, though. That's a good question. Let me see where we're at now. Leonard Smith's got another one. Thank you, Leonard, for asking questions. I do appreciate it. What are your thoughts on hearing protection while playing? Well, one of the things I do is I use in-ear monitors. These are my in-ears. Boy, they're gross right now. They look really gross. You see that's schmutz on that? That's schmutz. That's ear schmutz. I got to clean these bad boys. I pulled them out of my ears, didn't look down at them. They're really disgusting. But anyhow, these have hearing protection built into them, and then you got to keep your monitors lower so you don't blow your ears out. In-ear monitors force you to play a lot quieter, otherwise you'll blow your eardrums out. Matter of fact, I was afraid of him for years. The guy named Willie Green, I think his name was, he used to play with the Neville Brothers. He did a Modern Drummer story, and he talked about having the in-ears in, and the sound guy blew out one of his ears. So I think now most systems with the in-ears have some compression and attenuation at a certain level, so you can't blow your ears out. But that's the scary thing about ears. Whenever I work in a church with in-ear monitor systems, I always start the system at the 0. I turn it to 0 before I plug my ears in, and then I turn it up gradually. And you should be nowhere near the top. Now with headphones, sometimes because they are in the cans, so to speak, in the cans it seems like you get them louder for some reason. But in-ear monitors are one way of doing hear protection. But when I'm practicing, I practice with gun muffs, 30 dB down gun muffs. I've had them for a long time, my gun muffs. And even if I'm just sitting down just to play grooves, I'll put the gun muffs on and play. So I believe that hearing protection is really important. By the way, my day job is safety. Okay, so I'm pretty aware of OSHA's 80 decibel standard. For over an hour you can damage your hearing, that kind of thing. So I've been a proponent of wearing hearing protection for about 30 years. I've been wearing gun muffs when I practice. So it's just a thing. Really, when you're wearing headphones or in-ear monitors, you've got to watch your volume so you don't blow your ears out. That's the hard thing. So be careful. Another thing about studio monitors, and I got a question about that, so I'll get into that in a second. But one of the things about studio monitors you got to know is if you're working with click tracks, you need to have closed back headphones. Headphones that are going to basically keep the click inside the cans. Any kind of headphones that have got that open air thing, the click will be blowing out all over the studio and all over your microphones and in your overheads and stuff. And the track will get there. And it really becomes a problem when you start overdubbing and things and you want to take things out that were already there. That's a real problem. So, but yeah, that's another thing you got to be careful with headphones. But everybody has a tendency with clicks, when they're first learning clicks, to play them really, really loud because they're afraid they're going to get ahead of it or behind it. And in actuality, the best thing you do with your click is get it blended in enough so you're in, it's there enough, but not too far, you know. So, got a couple new people just showed up. Tay Tong, I can't say your last name, but hello, thank you for being on the show today. Appreciate that. And Leonard Smith, thank you for all the questions about hearing protection. That's a good question. Let's see. Blake Nunn says, I have the same thing in my ears. I use West Tones. Yeah, West Tones are good. They're good in ears, no doubt about it. And Double Deuce says he plays, I have to clean my JH audios every day. Yeah, I normally clean mine. I didn't clean mine after I took it out of my head a few minutes ago. 2 tiny holes for the earpiece using headphone. Yep. I use a headphone amp too. That's how I, over by the drum kit, there's a headphone amp. That helps. Sean Woodley said, are studio headphones worth getting? And the answer to that question is yes. This is a question of what studio headphones to get. That's the real question. What studio headphones do you want to buy and would you like to get that are good? So, from my perspective, there's some drum headphones that are good. I've had just about every drum headphone there is out there, except for the one set of superphones from, what's his name? Gordy Knudsen, GK Audio. He's got a set called superphones. They've got Sony 7506's drivers in them, and they're gun muffs, and they're the best. They're the best head. They're about $300. But I've played the Vic Firths. I've played the Metrophones. I've played the. I'm looking up at them. Just every drummer headphone there is. I've had a pair of at one point and broke. The headphones that have worked the best for me have been the Sennheiser. I think they're called the 275s. Let me pull a set of headphones down for a second. All right. So these are my good old Sennheisers, and I'm not even sure the markings are on them anymore. What they are. Oh, HD 280 Pros. That's what they are. 280 Pros. These are beat up, man. I've had these about 15 years. They've been used on a lot of studio sessions with a lot of people. The biggest problem of running a studio is having your headphones beaten up. And boy, these are torn up right now. I'm looking at them, how torn up they are. But still work. This is probably one of the cheapest pairs of headphones I ever made, that I ever bought, I say. Let's not made. They make cheaper headphones. This is the CAD MH310s. I have 2 pairs of these. And these headphones actually isolate sound really well, and they sound okay for a drummer. I used to use them a lot, actually. These are good tracking headphones. And they're kind of like, I don't know if AKG makes them, but they're kind of in the AKG style of headphones. But, yeah. But the Sennheiser, the 280s, those are great headphones. Those are definitely headphones you'd want to get for your studio, no doubt about it. As far as the drum headphones, the Gordy Knudsen Audio Superphones are probably the best drummer isolation headphone out there, bar none. And then you get into the other drum phones, the Metrophones, the Vic Firths. CAD makes a drummer headphone. Apparently, there's a lot of guys, you know. There's another headphone that's really cool, which is the Beyerdynamic. I think it's the 880 or the 770? I have it. I have that set of headphones too. They're like $150 a pair, but you can spend a lot of money. And yes, Chadwick says, only studio headphones you do your mixes with are your 280 Pros. Yeah. I think for mixing, for me, I use speakers. I'd rather not mix on headphones. That's just me. But I use Dyna Audio BM5As. That's what I have. I've had them for a long time, too. Those are about, gosh, they're like 15, 16 years old, too, now. Powered monitors. Very nice monitors. I can't show them to you because I just can't. But they're right next to me. Right here. All right, let's see what else we got. All right. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning, Gunter. Thank you for being on, Gunter, today. I appreciate it. Blake Nunn. I just saw another head. Here it is. Claus had one. Different style heads for different drums. Any thoughts? Well, heads, those are really personal. And I've used just about every head out there at some point in time. So let me think. My favorite head right now is a Remo Ambassador. Believe it or not, coated Remo Ambassador. And that's what's on my Gretsch kit. And I have them on both sides except for the 13. It's still got the... I thought I had an extra 13. Apparently I put it on a snare drum, it seems like. But I have a clear Ambassador on the bottom of the 13. But all the other drums have got coateds on the bottom. And coated Ambassadors are just a great drum head. They just work. But pinstripes are nice heads. Clear Emperors are nice heads. Clear Ambassadors are nice heads. And then you get into the Evans heads. You know, I like the G2s a lot. Always have. I like the Evans 56. You know that my kick drum has got an Evans 56 on the back. And it's really nice. It's kind of like the old Fiberskin heads from Remo. And back in the day, the old Fiberskins, they had a synthetic head, and then they had kind of like a paper kind of look to them. It felt like paper, peeled like paper. And they used to be nice to play brushes with on the Fiberskins. They still make them too. It's kind of the same head they use on those, on the djembes actually. It's very close to that. So Fiberskins are cool heads. But Evans makes a whole bunch of other heads. And then I've played Aquarian. The Aquarian vintage heads. Excellent heads. Excellent drum heads. And just a different sound. They're just expensive. So it really comes down to what you want to spend money on. You know what I mean? But I would say I'm using the Ambassadors for everything. And that they're jazz heads. And when I first bought my Gretsch kit, it came with Ambassadors on it. And the first thing I changed it to was pinstripes or a double ply head, because a double ply head will get you the rock sound. So if you go with Emperors or G2s, clear or coated, you're going to get more of a rock sound out of it. And back in the 80s and the 70s, what guys were using was hydraulic heads. And I mean, that was because Steve Gadd made the hydraulic head very popular. And the hydraulic head was 2-ply heads with oil in between them. And then the pins looked like that's what they were. I think it was just an effect that came out by the way they put the 2-plies together for the pins. But the Evans actually had oil in them. Like if you broke the head, you could feel the oil kind of coming out of them. I broke one of those once. It was a bass drum head I broke through with a wooden beater. That's what did that. But yeah, I mean, different heads for different sounds. Clear heads are kind of nice for certain rock things. Certain guys want the punch of the clear head. I like the mid-rangey thing of the coated head. I like coated heads for the most part better than clear heads, but on the concert toms, right now I got clear Emperors on the concert toms and they sound great. They would sound great with it pinstripes. They sounded great with clear Ambassadors. So it all depends on what you're going for. There's so many heads out there. You know, so many heads. So lots of stuff. Remember, your questions make the show. If I don't have questions, I don't have a show. So let's see if there's another question here. Blake says, I'm more a fan of coated head with no gels and muffling. You know, let's talk about gels and muffling for a second, because that's an interesting point. To get certain sounds in the studio, you put different things on it to get the sound. I'll just be honest. And that's why you see these guys on Instagram with their crazy setups and all the muffling on it and stuff. They're going for a sound. That's how they get the sound. Now, there's other ways to get sounds. I mean, one of the cool things I've learned is detuning a lug, and that's an old studio trick that Jeff Porcaro used to use forever, and a lot of guys used on snare drums. Like if you've got my Black Beauty, this is one of the tricks I have on my Black Beauty. You tune the Black Beauty up to where you like it, and then if you want to fatten it up a little bit, you go across from the strainer. So I usually have my strainer, when I have a drum, a snare drum, on my left side is where I put my snare strainer. And I usually have my snare strainer kind of a little diagonal going across so I can get to the snare strainer to flip it off. That's the thought process. Now, different guys have different thoughts on this. I heard a lot of the Nashville guys want their strainer to be dead center on them, and they have to reach under their belly button almost to get to this throw off. I don't know. Matter of fact, the guy who built me my custom drum just was talking to Rich Redmond, and that's what Rich Redmond said to him. So what did he do to my drum? He put my badge in the place. Well, I thought you were going to put it like Rich Redmond did. I don't do that. I want it off to the side. I wanted my badge so you could see it off my drum. He put the badge in the wrong place for me. It really bummed me out, actually. Spent all that money on the drum, and the badge was in the wrong place. So I got this thing where I want it off to the side of me. But here's the thing. With a Ludwig Superphonic, you basically go across over that off to, so it's probably about 1 o'clock-ish. Let's say 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, that lug, and you just kind of back it off. And if you back that lug off, it kind of detensions the head and gives it that fat, splatty Superphonic thing that sounds that plop without any muffling on it. Now, if you add muffling to it, it just makes it even more ploppy and more splatty and more of that fat thing. And when you're recording drums, you've got to do certain things to get certain sounds out of drums. It's nice to have wide open drums, and it's a whole thing when guys say, oh, you play my drums wide open. Okay, if you're Simon Phillips and you're a studio engineer like Simon Phillips is, and he wants his drums to sound his way all the time, that works. But if you're a chameleon that's doing studio sessions for people and they want something else, you do something else. So you add a piece of tape, you add a little tissue, you do whatever it takes to get the sound they want to make them happy. When I'm doing drum covers trying to sound like those other drummers, a lot of times I'll change things to get that sound. So I'll use gels and muffling. I don't like rings. Rings kind of make noise a lot of times, but the moon gel, piece of tape, those things all kind of work. You know, I don't know why, they just do. Let's see what Chad said. Try the new 10, 12, 14, 16 UV ones. I should try the UV ones. I've tried the UV 2s once. Definitely something to try. I'm not opposed to the UVs. I'm not opposed to Evans. I wish Evans would give me an endorsement, though. I'd like to have an Evans ProMark endorsement. That'd be nice. Or Vader endorsement someday, right? I can dream. Aquarium modern vintage heads. Yes, those are the ones I was talking about. Excellent heads. Let's see. UVs have the clear edge. Yep, I guess so. Any other questions, guys? Let's see it, Blake. All sorts of stuff. Quick. Definitely. Claus, thank you. All right, guys. Well, let's see what time it is. It's 10:09. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to give me a couple more questions, or I'm going to call it a day because I don't know what else to talk about today. I'm kind of lost. But I do appreciate you all. I got 11 people here, so you guys got to dig up a question for me. Somebody come up with a question. Come on. I know you like listening to me talk, and it's a slight delay here somewhere, but I need a question. So all right, Blake, you're good at keeping this going. I like the way you do that. And then I got one from Chadwick too. Thank you. What's up next in the queue for Earl? Well, I kind of told you a little bit about, and Bill, Drum Covers by Bill's got a question. I'm going to definitely answer yours too, Bill. All right, up in the queue. I told you a little bit. I'm trying to do some 80s tunes. So I did 3 80s tunes this weekend already. Don't ask me how, because I really don't ask the question how. Nobody needs to know how I did this. But I did 3 80s tunes this weekend already. I did Lady in Red. I did Every Time You Go Away by Paul Young, and I did the Bangles Manic Monday. I did them since yesterday. So that's three, but they're pretty easy songs. Two are pretty much emulating drum machines, and they're groove pocket songs. I like pocket songs. That's just me. Last weekend you saw I Am Your Captain. I did Diana Krall, Fly Me to the Moon. Let's see what else that I didn't release last weekend. I did do Walking in Memphis. That's coming out, Bill. You asked me to do that. That's done. I did a couple other ones people asked me to do last weekend. I should be looking at my iPad. I did so much stupid songs, you can't believe it, guys. I think I starting to realize that because you don't watch my videos as much because I put too much stuff out. That's the other thing I want to tell you about YouTube, by the way. You put out too much stuff, I think you hit a point. Oh, I did Bang the Drum, Todd Rundgren. I let that out yesterday. I did Street Life by the Crusaders. I had a lot of fun with Street Life by the Crusaders. Just a little solo thing in there. For those of you that like that kind of thing, I took the ending and kind of soloed on it. That song is originally cut. It's 11 minutes, Street Life. It's an 11-minute song. And I got some strange version where there was a cut in it, but it wasn't the cut for the singles version. And the speeding up from the beginning to the end is just incredible. There's like this huge sax solo and guitar solo and some other solo in there. And I didn't have that version. But the ending, the drummer starts playing some stuff, some kind of interesting stuff. So I just took an opportunity to just play. So I thought I had a lot of fun with that version. I also did Squeeze's Black Coffee in Bed last weekend, which was another song for out there. So I've been trying to work some 80s tunes in and 90s tunes and trying to spread it out a little bit because I play that music too. It's just, that's pretty much what it is. All right. Chadwick says, how tight are you keeping your snare stringers? Depends on the drum, depends on the sound I'm going for, I think. One of the things I bought was some of that ribbon that, you know how you got those different color ribbons? You go online and there's a name for this ribbon. I'm going to go on my Amazon account because I ordered off of Amazon. I bought enough to basically fix snare drums for the next 20 years, I think. But Amazon recent purchase. I bought this in the last 2 months. But this ribbon's cheap. And if you like that kind of ribbon kind of look and they're selling you 2 pieces of ribbon for $6, for $9 you can buy enough to fix everybody's snare drum in your state, probably. I think I got like 6 feet of this stuff, so trying to find it. Ribbon, but I forget what it's called. There's a certain name to it, and I gotta find it. Didn't prepare for that question, but that ribbon stuff is what I use. But as far as how tight I keep it, it depends. I mean, I loosen it sometimes if I'm doing a big fat snare drum thing. I loosen it way loose, sickeningly loose. And sometimes I tighten it up, but I rarely tighten it up super tight. It's usually like a medium tension, my snares. I think that kind of works. That Black Beauty right now is, I'm not touching the Black. That Black Beauty is magic. It's a magic drum, and I'm gone, so I wonder if I'm left. No, I'm still here. Thought I left for a second there, so I saw the black screen come on, and I got like freaked out, like, am I gone? But I'm still here. Anyhow, that Black Beauty is magic. I don't know. I just changed the heads, and I actually ordered a bottom snare head because the bottom snare head's got a little rip in it, and I noticed it when I put the new top head on, and I said I better order. I didn't have any new ones, so I ordered a couple from Sweetwater, and they came in a month and a half ago. When I put this new snare throw off on it, the Dunn throw off for the Ludwig drums, and I said I got to change the bottom head. I'm going to try a GAD version. I'm going to use a Diplomat bottom, but the drum sounds so good I can't change the head because it just sounds right. So you know how you get a drum that just sounds right, you don't want to touch anything? That's where I'm at with the Black Beauty right now. Can't go wrong with it. All right, drum covers by Bill said, tell us about the piano in the background. Who plays that? All right, that's a good question. I pick at it once in a while. My son-in-law plays it, and my grandson plays it more often than anybody else. But it's been used in my studio for sessions and stuff. Every once in a while, I'll have a piano player or somebody wants to come down, they're writing a song, and we'll set that up, and we'll do MIDI into my Logic, and we'll get sounds through that. Because it really is a controller. It's a weighted keyboard, but it's not a real expensive weighted keyboard. It's a Yamaha. It's got like 8 sounds in it. None of them are great, just good enough. But the weighted keyboard is nice. It's 88 keys, so a piano player can really do what they want to do. They can still do what they want to do. So that's why it's there. It's there for the studio. I have a couple instruments in the studio. That's one of them. I also have a synthesizer controller. It's right next to me here. You can't see it. That I can program drums off. It's got pads on and things like that. I bought that for the studio. I have a bass guitar that was my son's guitar. Bass guitar that's in the studio. It's a old Mexican from Mexico Fender Precision bass. It's a nice bass. I have an electric guitar over there. One of my son's electric guitars here too. So I have some instruments around, but most of the guys come in with their own instruments. Rarely does anybody need my stuff to play. But that keyboard gets used a lot for things. And it's got MIDI hooked to it, so it's all set up to go MIDI, and I've recorded it. I've recorded the sound of it too. Sometimes I record the audio and the MIDI, so I get both. But it's just there. It's part of the studio. You know, this studio is a working, functioning studio that I do sessions in. And I recorded an album last year, a band called Mona Lisa Tribe. They're now living in Nashville. So Tabitha Meeks is her name. If you know, Chadwick, if you see this chick Tabitha out there, Tabitha Meeks, she's a piano player. She moved with most of the band, Mona Lisa Tribe, out to Nashville. So after we did that record, but they cut the album here. So I got mixed somewhere else. I didn't mix it. I just cut it. I like tracking. I don't really enjoy the mixing as much. I've mixed a couple albums, but I don't consider myself a mixer, even though you wouldn't know that by listening to my drum mixes, because most of the people like my drum stuff. I do. But any other questions? Boy, I got 10 of you out there. Chadwick's still here, and Drum Covers by Bill says he can't wait for Walking in Memphis. That I'll release that this week for you, Bill. It'll come out. I just been trying to push some of the older stuff. I released the song Jigsaw by the band Jigsaw, Sky High. I don't know why I did. It was the first time I learned how to do, the two-handed thing. And for some reason I wanted to do that. It's just really boring. It's just like one pattern, but it's really fast. Blake, there's some elements of drumming that I find takes years of experience in doing to get good sense of, rather than chops and sticking combos. Any drummer can learn, sense of timing, etc. You know, I think experience is what makes the difference for maturity in playing. Musicality comes out. It took me years. I'm 45 years. I think I'm playing better than ever in some respects. A lot of my youthful chops are gone, but I think my musical ideas and thought process and how I get in the music is so much deeper than I was when I was in my 20s. And I wish I had it in my 20s. Some people get it in their 20s, so everybody's different. But I will say that music is something you keep working on, and you keep living in, and you keep growing, and that is one of the most important aspects of music, is to keep growing and learning and listening and growing and learning and listening. And the more you do that, the better you become. Listening is a big part of it. The reason I can learn songs so quickly, my process, is because I listen to a lot of music all the time. I'm listening to music always. I think most of the guys here that play music and can learn things quickly would tell you that the reason they can do it is because they've played it so many times. Somebody asked me not too long ago a question on how I do this, and do I have to write out the patterns and things like that. It's like, no, I don't write patterns out because I know the pattern hearing it. When I was playing that Bengals tune this morning, I cut that in 15 minutes. I did 4 takes in 15 minutes. The song's done. I just got to put it on video right now. It's all done. It literally doesn't take that long to do that song. That song is a 4-minute song, and it's 1 in 3 for the most part. I just had a couple musical choices to make on a couple of fill things, but for the most part, that groove, everybody knows that groove. You just feel that groove, and that's my starting point. My starting point on any song is 1 in 3 on the kick, 2 and 4 on the snare usually, unless the song's in 6. You know what I'm saying? But then you start listening and you go, oh, there's a little movement here on the guitar. Oh, there's a little movement here on the bass. And that's where it really goes. Chadwick's adding something. Staying creative helps keep young people younger. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. The other thing I say is keep playing with young people as much as you can. A lot of older guys get stuck in this rut of playing with people their own age. And you only go as far. A lot of times, the people of your own age that you're playing with, they got stuck. Hey, Michael Perry, nice to have you today. Thanks for dropping in. Those people got stuck playing in that era where they were a kid, and they came back to it later in life. Now, I have the advantage of I never stopped playing, and that's an advantage to me because I know a lot of guys my age that stop for 20 years and then they pick it back up. And then you got to start right back over again. You got to go back to the rudiments, go back to your basics, and start relearning things in a different way. But when you're playing for 45 years straight, I just keep getting incrementally better all the time. Like some days are better than others. I mean, I have good days, bad days, but for the most part, I think my playing is just getting better. And the more playing I do, the better it sounds to me. Because practice and playing makes things better. The more you play, the better you're gonna get at it. So that's why pro level guys that do it every day, they say they don't practice that much because they're playing all the time. They're applying the skill set. If you're not playing all the time, you've got to practice. And one of the things I'm learning now, late in life, is that if I do spend a little bit of time practicing a few things, it gets into my playing faster now. Like boom. Like there was something Tate Berkey put on Instagram today, and I just kind of took a picture of the pattern. It was up in his story, and it was like a cool paradiddle breakdown, and a turnaround, go from right hand to left hand. And I'm going to try it. I'm going to take it and try to work with it with a metronome and get it going, because those are the kinds of things that now I put it on the drum kit and I'm in my flow of playing and it comes out because I'm practicing it a little bit. So practice does have a place, don't get me wrong. I'm just being honest, I don't spend a lot of time practicing. That's the problem. So Laurie Jones said something. He said, oops, I got Blake. Sorry, you're agreeing with this. Jamming with other musicians is something I enjoy. Again, playing with musicians, that's a big part of music. I think it's one of the lost arts of music today with YouTube, is that we can get so much into our world that we don't have to play with musicians. So my advantage is I play with musicians too. So next weekend I'll be playing at church. I don't know who will be on the bandstand. They'll all be younger than me, though. There's nobody older than me at church, so I don't have to worry about that one. Everybody will be younger than me. And their ideas and where they come from affect me and affects how I play, affects what I play. They force me to play and think like you guys, younger guys, do think. And music is different today. Music was made in the 60s and 70s and 50s as a continuous event. That's not the studio today. Today things are made as sections. Okay, let's get the chorus, let's get the verse, let's get the bridge. Let's record the drums without anybody there and then put everybody on top of the drummer. That's a whole different way of thinking about music. And it started happening with multi-track. It started happening in the 80s. But places like Nashville never really adapted to that till now. Now there's a lot more rooms that are tracking that way. So we're losing something in that, is what I'm saying. Agree with Laura. I much prefer original stuff with others than playing covers, personally. Blake, that's cool that you can do that for your channel, that you can play with other people. And I think we all got our own different things, that we do. covers for me was a way to get seen out here. But the videos that really bring people to my covers are these talking videos, believe it or not, which cracks me up, by the way. I so crack up that people like watching me talk, that I've actually had 10 people now for almost an hour. That cracks me up. I mean, you want to know my most favorite thing in the world to do before COVID was getting some local drummer friends of mine down in the studio, sitting on that couch, and we would be here on a Monday night for like 3 hours, and we talk drums, and we bounce around the drums and get up and show patterns and show things we're doing. That's drum community. That's what it is. And I think that's what this show has become, because I got a community of guys that come here on Saturdays, and you guys hang out, and you talk to one another in the chat, and you listen to me talk, and we're building a community. And that is the cool thing. And that's what I love doing. But the drum covers keeps people coming back and gives them a reason to subscribe. Because some guys will listen to me talk about Paiste cymbals, or listen to me talk about Jeff Porcaro, or listen to me talk about, the 5 top Christian drum beats in a church service in 4/4. And they love those videos, but they're not necessarily going to become subscribers unless they saw that I could really play. And then they go, oh, he plays. Oh, he played that. Oh, he plays that. It's been a calling card. So the playing has helped the subscribers grow, and I think it's helped those videos and whatever. But YouTube I'm not going to be a star on YouTube. I'm just one of the guys, just like you guys. I have a lot of fun with it. Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Thank you for being on, Stuart. Man, I love your playing. Patterns are great. Just don't allow them to overtake your playing. It's just a tool of creativity within your playing. That's correct. That's what I was trying to say about flow before, is that the thing that kills creativity is when you're overthinking it, and when you learn lots of patterns, the patterns become you think that's your flow, but it's really not. It's you trying to fit a pattern into something that maybe it doesn't really work. And the great players like Vinny Colaiuta, they don't think of patterns, they just flow. It comes out of them. And I think when you start to understand that that's how jazz musicians play, because I have a jazz background. I'm not a great jazz musician, but I have a jazz background. It's about flow. So you get in a groove, you're in the pocket, and all of a sudden you hear something and you react to it, that's in the flow. If it ends up being one of those cool patterns you practice, great. It could end up being a variation of the pattern you practiced. But don't be locked on the pattern, be locked on the flow, flowing in it. So you're correct, Stuart. That's totally correct. I agree with you on that. Okay. Laurie's talking about his band. He jamming. Great. Blake, love playing covers too. I know you do, Blake. I know. But writing with others is cool. If you want to write live on YouTube, that's cool. I get it. That's awesome. Chadwick, covers on YouTube were the way I dealt with stopping playing live. Yeah, I think a lot of guys ended up doing covers because of COVID. COVID brought people to covers. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to give you another 3 minutes of me, and then I'm going to end. But the reason I got into covers, and this is the real reason for those of you that haven't heard this story, is I was out of work in 2017. My company sold half their business. I was part of the sale of half the business, and I basically was on my severance and trying to find out what I was going to do next for my career. And I thought I was going to teach drum lessons. And I thought to get some students, I needed to have something that they needed to know I knew how to play. It was like YouTube became a card, a business card. I could say, oh, here's my business card. And look at these videos. You can see I know how to play. And you can see I know how to teach. See, I did this video about how you play these basic beats. I can teach. Hey, I know something about drums, about cymbals. You can see I can talk about it. But that really wasn't what got him. Seeing me play drums was. So that was why I started YouTube, and that's why I started doing covers. So I did this before COVID. So I've been doing this 4 years now. And now covers for me is me having fun. Me just utilizing my studio and having fun. I have this studio, why not use it? I don't bring a lot of people into the studio. I do very select sessions for people. People that know me, people that are friends, people that ask me to do work for them. I'm not even hawking it anymore. At one point in time, I used to go around all the music stores and put my poster up. And after bringing a few bands in here, I learned I didn't want people in my studio playing my drums. I had this one metal band came in here. They're all smoking pot out there in my backyard, sitting on my back patio. And I'm like, I don't need this crap. I'm not going to deal with a bunch of kids smoking weed in the back. And then they come out and they suck in the studio. Or having a band come in here one day and the guy working out a deal for the guy. This is one of my worst studio stories ever. This was terrible. This is something I told the guy I wouldn't put my name on. The drummer friended me at Guitar Center, and my friend at Guitar Center got me this gig. And the guy said, we're just going to come in and do 1-minute pieces of 7 songs. We're trying to get some work in town. And hi, Spiro Drums, thanks for coming on. And I said, okay, well, 1 minute, 7 songs, that's fine. They got here, and the bass player wanted to do 7-minute songs of like Sunshine of Your Love, from Cream, and Jimi Hendrix and The Who. And they sucked. They were terrible. I mean, they were a terrible band. And the drummer was terrible. And I did this session for one flat fee for the day. And that included the mix. And we got done with the day, and I couldn't do the mix. And I said, well, you're going to have to let me mix it tomorrow, and I'll give it to you. And as I started mixing, I go, I can't do anything with this. This is terrible. And I said to the guy, you're going to have to cough up more money because this is way more than it was supposed to be. You were supposed to do 1-minute songs. He got really ticked at me. So the bass player said, I'll come down and we'll mix it together. So he came down and he made all the mixing choices. And his choices were terrible. I knew they were bad. And I was fixing things and time correcting things. And anyhow, when I got done, I made double what I was going to make on the session. And I handed him a CD and I said, I don't ever want to deal with that crap again. So I am very, very, very selective in who I bring in the studio. But I have this wonderful studio that I can do work in, and if I want to keep my recording chops, I got to be doing it. Because you spend 6 months away from Logic and everything changes, you don't know it. I'm good with Logic. I'm good with Final Cut. It's because I'm keeping my chops up. And how do I keep my chops up? I do drum covers. Keeps my chops up. Keeps me in the game. So that's why I do drum covers. But a lot of you jumped into drum covers because of COVID. Like Spiro said. Started doing drum covers because of COVID. By the way, you are a star. I did not get that part of it. Oh, thank you, Spiro. I don't think I'm in my Pisces videos. Thank you for watching that. That was awesome, Spiro. I appreciate that. I guess I am a star in some strange universe. So anyhow, everybody, thank you all for being on my show today. And you guys make this show. Without you, there is no show. And I will try to be back again next week. You guys gave me a little boost. That gave me a boost, Spiro, at the end, I have to tell you. Because I woke up this morning going, why am I doing this show? But if it's for 10 people that enjoy this and we have a little bit of community here and we have a little bit of fun, that's why I'm doing it. Thank you all for being on. Leonard Smith, Claus, Blake. Blake, thank you for your contribution. Spiro, Chadwick, drum covers by Bill, Laurie Jones, Michael Perry showing up, Chris, who showed up I didn't expect today and asked a few questions. Gunter, thank you for being on. Sean Woodley, thank you for being on. Tay, thank you for showing up today. I really do appreciate that. Leonard Smith, I said that. Keith Scott, thank you. I'm going right down the line. Everybody, thank you all for being on the show. Guys, have a great day. See ya.